Have you ever been burned by a player so badly that you swore you would never draft them again? These are the 10 players I am never going to draft again in fantasy football. Let's start with the guy who was last year's cover boy for the thumbnail for this video. I'm putting him back on here, and that is Gabe Davis. This guy gets the boom bust label, but really he just mostly busts. He had 6 games this year where he scored 15 or more fantasy points, not bad, but he also had 6 games this year where he scored exactly 0 points. This guy is on the field for 90+% of the snaps and doesn't even get a catch in 6 games. Not to mention, in the 12 games outside of the ones where he scored over 15 fantasy points, he never scored more than 10 fantasy points. He's not boom or bust, he's just bust. And even his booms weren't that big this year. Didn't do it with Gabe Davis last year, not doing it with him this year, never drafting him again. I'm also never drafting DeAndre Hopkins again. Only averaged 13.2 PPR points this year, which isn't bad unless you realize he was like a 4th, 5th round pick. Now he's going to be entering his age 32 season. Uncertainty with who he's going to be catching passes from, this Tennessee offense. But does it really matter? This guy wasn't even that good anyways this year. Now a year older in this situation, there is no way I could have DeAndre Hopkins on any of my fantasy teams unless he somehow falls to the double-digit rounds, which just isn't going to happen. And there is no way I can have Austin Ekeler on any of my fantasy teams either. It's sad because you love Austin Ekeler. He's a huge fantasy player. He does so much for fantasy football, but he looked slow this year. He looked like he lost a total step, and we don't even know where this guy's going to be playing next year. It's probably not going to be the Chargers. He's going to want to get paid, but who's going to want to pay Austin Ekeler? Not to mention, who's going to want this guy on their fantasy team? One of the biggest busts in 2023. Hard to see him rebounding in 2024. I will not be touching Austin Ekeler. And I also will not be touching Jerry Jeudy. I tried to warn people, do not draft Jerry Jeudy in 2023. I could not believe that Jerry Jeudy was going 40 picks higher than Courtland Sutton. Like, people were so confident that Jerry Jeudy was this good wide receiver that he deserved to be 40 picks higher than any other pass catcher on the Broncos. Not only was he not good, he was terrible. He was an absolute bust. Even in the games Courtland Sutton missed, he did almost nothing. He's a free agent now. I don't care where he signs. You shouldn't care where he signs. Please, don't draft Jerry Jeudy in 2024. He's not only one of the biggest busts in real life, but one of the biggest busts in fantasy, and that isn't going to change. Alexander Mattison was another guy I was saying, please don't draft Alexander Mattison. I know it looks like he has a path to touches. He's going to be the lead back. But first of all, he's just a guy. He's nothing special as a runner. He's nothing special as a pass catcher. He's nothing special. Also, this is not an offense you want a piece of the running game. It's a pass-first offense, a pass-heavy offense. Ever since Kevin O'Connell took over, they've been a more pass-heavy offense. This is not like back with Mike Zimmer when they would run some more. You do not want the running back in this offense unless they're an elite talent, and Alexander Mattison is not an elite talent. And look, down the stretch, Ty Chandler even looked better, so we don't even know if it's going to be Madison's backfield next year. There is no way I'm drafting Alexander Mattison. Didn't draft him in 2023, not drafting him in 2024. And I am done with A.J. Dillon. Even when Aaron Jones gets hurt and you think, oh, A.J. Dillon time, what does he do? Nothing. He does nothing. Maybe he falls into the end zone, but that is it. He's had enough chances now, 4 years as a pro, and has shown he's also just a guy. He is nothing special as a runner. I don't care where he plays next year. I don't care if Aaron Jones retired and they brought him back. I don't care if he goes somewhere great. I do not care. This guy is nothing special. He's not a pass catcher. He's not an elite running back. He's just a guy who needs a ton of volume to even be decent in fantasy. You can do way better than A.J. Dillon. Do not draft him this year or beyond. And please, stop hanging on to guys who were great years ago like Darren Waller. He's like the new Michael Thomas, right? Every time he pops up or there's some hype report in preseason like, oh, he looks great. He looks all the way back. He looks like the best pass catcher on the Giants. People fall for it, and then he does nothing. This guy looked terrible this year. Even when he wasn't hurt, on the field just looked terrible. Doesn't look the same. Doesn't look as explosive. Gotta quit hanging on to what this guy did 3-4 years ago in a totally different offense. This is the Giants offense. Who knows who's going to be quarterback? Who knows what this offense is going to be like? Please don't fall for Darren Waller this year. If he gets hyped up in the preseason, just ignore it and don't draft him ever again. And I am definitely never drafting Miles Sanders again. This was a guy I really was never on in fantasy, never really drafted him. Had a great year in 2022 with the Eagles, then signed a big contract with the Panthers thinking, okay, he's going to be the workhorse. And he was for a while, and then he lost his job to Chuba Hubbard. He was terrible. And you can't just blame the offense because Chuba Hubbard actually looked pretty good in the same offense. I don't know what happened to Miles Sanders between 2022 and 2023, but it wasn't good because he was terrible last year. And now going into next year, he's under contract. He's not going to be the starter. Is he even going to get touches? Are they going to completely replace him? You absolutely cannot draft Miles Sanders this year and probably ever again. And I fell for Deshaun Watson in 2023. I am not falling for Deshaun Watson in 2024. This guy has just not looked the same ever since all of the off the field stuff has hit him. Even last year when he was supposedly healthy, didn't look that good. What are we really going to get from this guy next year, even if he's ready to go and going to play? A bunch of frustration. Maybe every now and then he puts up a good game in soft matchups. This is a guy, sure, maybe I'll stream him if he's available on the waiver wire, but no way am I ever drafting this guy to be my QB1 again in fantasy. He's burned me too many times. I'm done with him. And now I've been done with Juju Smith-Schuster for a while, but for some reason this guy always gets drafted in drafts. He always goes in the single-digit rounds. I don't understand it. This guy hasn't really been fantasy great since year 2 of his career. Even with the Chiefs 2 years ago. Sure, he had like a few nice games, but he was mostly terrible. Juju Smith-Schuster, again, another guy people hanging on to what he did like 4 years ago. Let it go. It's over. Don't draft Juju Smith-Schuster in 2024 or really ever again. Those are the players I am never drafting again, but if you want to see what I think the first round of 2024 fantasy drafts will look like, check out this video right here.